3 months ago, I got the call with the opportunity to join the phenomenal team here at SFBNRI. Over the past few months, we've come together to bring to you a lot of breaking news, in-depth feature pieces, coverage of major sporting events, and colorful athlete features. We launched a dynamic lineup of programming from Roadie Sports Show to MMA Complete, from Ocean State Athlete Spotlight to Titletown Throwdown, even taking our talents south to Florida as we followed the continuing sagas of Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the Tom Gronkowski Show, and breaking the glass ceiling, not just in sports journalism, but for who we see as sports personalities, giving spotlight to the ladies with Play Like a Girl, hosted by our own Laura Crusoe and Gianna Cambria. I was given the opportunity to kickstart one show as we brought And That's the Game to this podcast airwaves and interviewed some amazing guests like Sky Blue FC GM Elise LaHue, former NHL executive JB Spisso, Boston Cannons president Ian Fournette, and Rhode Island's own and current National Women's Soccer League player North Carolina Courage's Mackenzie Meehan. We brought groundbreaking stories to the team, like the decision of the Ivy League to cancel fall sports, the first conference to do so, and one to hold steadfast in their decisions still to this day. The disastrous report surrounding the misogynistic comments and actions made by staffers at the Washington football team, and our heartbreaking but memorable episode 3 weeks ago as we took a look back at the impact of September 11th on the sports world as we remembered all those tragically lost on that fateful day 19 years ago. And now we have a new opportunity, a brand new show, different than anything we've done before on the SFBNRI family. Welcome to Sports World Weekly. It's Saturday, October 3rd, 2020. Good morning and welcome to a special preview episode of Sports World Weekly. I'm Matthew Gillis. We bring the show on air today to give you a glimpse into what we'll be doing here from the Sports Fanbase Network Rhode Island studios in the months and weeks to come. While so many of our shows focus on sports teams, players from Boston, Rhode Island, New England, and the rest of the United States, we can't forget the amazing matches and athletes who make up the global sports community. We'll be with you for 1 hour each Saturday and every Saturday, starting at 10 a.m. on all the SFBNRI digital platforms and many streaming broadcast outlets such as Facebook, Periscope, and Twitch, as we travel around the world to bring you the biggest stories from around the world. Players and coaches making an impact internationally, and don't worry, we'll still get you ready for all the big games happening here in the United States too. And with that being said, we begin today in Switzerland, where a football competition introduced in 1955 known as the European Champions Club Cup held its group stage draw in advance of its 66th competition. While the name might not sound familiar to fans of the game today, that's because it was renamed in 1992 to what we now know as the UEFA Champions League. German champions Bayern Munich looked to defend their delayed sixth title after defeating Paris Saint-Germain 1-0 in the 2020 final just 43 days ago. Why the delay in the sixth defense? Well, that was because the final itself, which usually is held in May, was delayed all the way until late August due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That final also was played behind closed doors, otherwise known as having no fans in the stadium. However, this year, they'll look to be able to play that final in May 2021 in front of fans in Istanbul, Turkey. The group stage, the major phase of the competition, contains 8 groups of 4 clubs, each featuring some of the biggest names in club players, club names, not just in European football, but in the global game as well. We'll take the time during the starting lineup segment over the next 2 weeks to break down the groups A through D first, and then E through H in advance of the kickoff match between Zenit and Club Brugge on October 20th. The 70th season of Formula One continues on as we prepare for the Aramco Germany Grand Prix on October 11th. But the shock story of the week didn't involve a race or a driver, rather a manufacturer. That's right, Japanese power supplier Honda announced they would exit F1 at the conclusion of the 2021 season, leaving two of the top teams in that of Red Bull Racing, which features championship podium contender Max Verstappen, and AlphaTauri, the home of rising French star Pierre Gasly, without an engine for their cars. Honda had just returned to the sport in 2015 after a lengthy absence, and in the past 2 years with the Red Bull family have captured 5 race victories and a litany of podium finishes. The departure will leave just Renault, Ferrari, and the title-clinching unit of Mercedes as the only power suppliers in the FIA. Red Bull, which recently signed the Concord Agreement committing the team to operations through the 2025 season, will be the ones most impacted by this, as Renault power setup would be assigned to them given that Renault currently has the fewest team contracts, unless somehow Red Bull or AlphaTauri could be able to make a deal with Ferrari or Mercedes to supply their powers. But with both of those teams having manufacturing hosting teams, it's probably unlikely that neither Ferrari nor Mercedes will commit. Remember, Mercedes is the home of Valtteri Bottas and multi-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, so it's unlikely a deal will be done. Red Bull boss Christian Horner, when asked about the decision, said, quote, "We look forward to embarking on a new era of innovation, development, and success." He followed it up by saying that, as a group, we will now take the time afforded to us to further evaluate and find the most competitive power unit solution for 2022 and beyond. The games of the 32nd Olympiad are finally coming. United by emotion, we head to Tokyo, Japan for the first time since 1964, and what is the second of 3 consecutive Olympiads to be held in the Asia region on the heels of the Pyeongchang Winter Games in 2018 and the upcoming Beijing Winter Games in 2022. We've already seen how some of the competitions might play out, from results in the UCI World Cycling Championships, the IAAF Diamond League for track and field, and preparation being made by athletes for the USA Winter Nationals for swimming and diving coming up soon. But the biggest impact of the games will be the return for the first time since 2008 of baseball and softball. The United States will be favored once again to win the gold medal in softball, and will hope to complete the double by bringing the baseball gold medal home as well. But the eyes of the world, and that of the sporting world, and the action sports world might actually be on the introduction of skateboarding to the Olympics, and the skateboarding competition helmed by young superstar Sky Brown, who looks for a chance to become the youngest gold medal winner in Olympic history should she be able to snag a podium place in either the vert or park competitions. The games of the 32nd Olympiad will kick off on Friday, July 23rd, 2021, and you can catch all the action in the United States on the networks of NBC, as well as online via streaming from Peacock by NBC as well. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back in 60 seconds. You're watching Sports World Weekly on SFBN-RI. Welcome to the show once again, and our main story this morning focuses on something near and dear to my heart: women's soccer. Not just in the United States, home to the 4-time World Cup champions, but to the amazing players, clubs, and countries around the world. In particular, the one position, played by only 2 players on the pitch, and at times the most unforgiving and sometimes unseen by many, but is such a pivotal position, that of the goalkeeper. The National Women's Soccer League season here in the United States is coming to a close, and so eyes are going to turn now to Europe and to the FA-WSL season in England, and as many other European leagues gear up. Had a chance this week to sit down and take a look at some of the play that's happened in the leagues around Europe, and I've got to say, you're missing out on something here. European soccer is definitely a very different construct and different play than how it is here in the United States. Of course, because of the fact that teams are not as close to each other geographically as they are here in the US. There are a lot more teams that you have to play against. There are a lot more leagues that have to get played against. And we also have international competition too with the UEFA Women's Champions League. So where do we go from here? Well, you can take a look and see how teams are playing out and how teams are working out and how players are playing out and players are working out. The game is definitely different. And it comes really from even the goalkeeper position as well, too. That's something that we've seen where players like Karen Bardsley and Theo Chamberlain in the UK have been able to make massive elongated careers. So how do we change that dynamic here in the US? That's something that's going to be a question that's going to have to come up in the next few weeks and few months as we look to how we're going to develop our game in advance of the Olympics coming, and then a quick turnaround to the World Cup once again. It's a definite different time and a different aspect that no one really has been able to figure out. The US seems to have the ability to capture world championships every single time the World Cup comes up. Well, not every single time, but we've won 4. We have the most stars of any country that's ever played the game. But when it comes to the other tournaments, when it comes to other success, when it comes to the Olympics, we've gotten to the promised land a couple of times, but we haven't been able to do it in a while. So how is Tokyo going to be an effect on the game? Well, it's going to be who goes overseas. And we saw that happen this spring, where a number of players who consistently play in the NWSL found themselves flying across the pond into England and playing in the FAWSL. We have seen players such as Tobin Heath and Kristen Press. We have even seen Alex Morgan, who found her way to England and playing with Tottenham right now in the FAWSL. While it seemed to look like there was an economic outpour that was occurring, it really was more just the construct of needing playing time. While we haven't seen a lot of goalkeepers go overseas, it's going to then raise the question, is Alyssa Nair, who stayed in the US and played in her NWSL team with Chicago, going to be at the same level as some of the players that we have seen overseas? Will she be able to match that of a Bardsley or a Bouadi in France once we get to Tokyo and the Olympics? Because the play time schedule difference is going to be there. We still, to this day, don't even know where U.S. national team camp is going to play or how the CONCACAF qualifiers are going to come into play. This is something that's a problem. And I don't mean in that the U.S. under new head coach Vlatko Andonovski won't be able to make it to the gold medal match in the Promised Land in Tokyo, but it's going to be interesting to see if they are able to compete at the same level that other teams and other countries are. U.S. soccer might, for the first time in history, have a women's soccer problem. We'll see how that breaks down. I know, personally, I hope not. But you never know what can happen. It's been a wild 2020, and I think 2021 might only get wilder. We'll take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back in 60 seconds. You're watching Sports World Weekly on SFBN RI. Welcome back once again to this special preview edition of Sports World Weekly on SFBN RI. Sports World Weekly is going to be a new Saturday morning show on the SFBNRI.com platforms. We're going to premiere the show in its full entirety next week, each and every Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Sports Fan Base Network, Rhode Island. It has been an absolute honor to be a part of this network for 3 months now, and I was gracious to be able to help launch the And That's the Game podcast. Hope that you tune in and have been able to hear all of those episodes. Those shows are still available. You can catch them on all of our audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you can get those. And we will be here now live on this new live stream show powered by StreamYard each and every week. You can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, Twitch. We are everywhere that you can possibly catch a live streaming show. Going to wrap it up right now, and we're going to do something that we have always done as part of And That's the Game, and we're bringing into Sports World Weekly, and that is the final buzzer segment. The Scottish Round 3 of the Scottish Open is taking place live actually now on NBC Golf Channel. That's going to go throughout part of the morning here. It is also horse racing day in America, and I know that's kind of a funny thing because if you know me and my shows, I say that just about every single Saturday, but it is actually a big one today. It is the final jewel of the Triple Crown, which normally means the Belmont Stakes in New York. But of course, as 2020 is, it's all flipped around. So we are actually in Baltimore for the Preakness Stakes. This year the Preakness is the final jewel of the Triple Crown. Hopefully we'll be able to get back to that being normal next year and then start the Kentucky Derby the first Saturday in May as it normally goes. The Preakness Stakes will follow, and then we'll conclude it with the Belmont Stakes. That takes place at 4:30 p.m. on NBC. But before that, Premier League football, big match today. Pep Guardiola and Manchester City takes on Marcelo Bielsa and the newly promoted Leeds United. Leeds United back in the top flight of English football for the first time in 16 seasons. That is a 12:30 p.m. tap time on NBC. And Sky Blue FC, I am repping my gear today. That is my club, one I support very highly. Sky Blue FC in the National Women's Soccer League, and newly signed UK player and a personal friend of mine, actually, Michaela Howell, take on the Washington Spirit. That is NWSL Fall Series action, game 3 of 4. They'll play one more game for all of the teams in the league in the coming weeks before they award the Verizon Community Shield. That is the second title that will be awarded this year in this kind of abbreviated and abrupt season. We had the NWSL Challenge Cup in Utah, which took place a couple of months ago, which the Houston Dash won. And then this one is a points competition. So there is no knockout rounds after this round robin play of 4 games. That is a tap time also of 12:30 p.m. That is available on CBS All Access here in the United States and on Twitch overseas if you are watching internationally. Don't forget to tune in Monday, 8 p.m. for this week's episode of Play Like a Girl. Hosts Laura Caruso and Gianna Cambria welcome WPRI 12 sportscaster Rosie Langello to the show. That's Monday night at 8 p.m. on the sfbnri.com platforms. This has been a special preview episode of Sports World Weekly. We'll see you right back here next Saturday and every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on the platforms of SFBN-RI. Until then, stay safe, wear a mask, wash your hands, and we'll all be together in a stadium sometime very soon. I'm Matthew Gillis, and on behalf of everyone here at Sports World Weekly and all of my colleagues of the SFBN-RI network, enjoy your weekend.